Calvin Robinson's on the line, Conservative commentator, amongst many other things as well. Now, one of the topics that is quite close to my heart, because it's an inevitability for me as far as I'm concerned, I think, is cancel culture. And Ant Middleton, who's this guy who was in the SAS and did I think it's Who Dares Wins or whatever it's called on Channel 4, he's essentially been cancelled for being the man that we turned him into. You know, we asked these people to go off to war and lay their lives on the line and go and do the most dangerous things known to man in some of the most dangerous places that the world has to offer, and then we're shocked when they emerge and they're not metro liberal wokists. But there's a worrying precedent here. In case you've not seen this, he basically got sacked because he didn't share his the values of Channel 4. Now, I find this quite disturbing, really, and I'm going to bring Calvin into this discussion now. Calvin, thank you very much for joining us. Are we heading towards a world where, unless you think one way and act one way, you essentially won't be able to get a job?
I think we're already there, to be honest, Patrick. Good morning, by the way. It's nice to see your afro's getting to the size of mine.
Oh, honestly, yes. I'm waiting. Birds are going to nest in this. Bill Oddie's going to present Springwatch from my scalp, I think, at some point. So anyway, carry on, Calvin.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? It's just that you can't voice an opinion in public unless it is in line with the approved narrative of the metropolitan liberal elite. Unless it is that woke social justice warrior stance that, you know, we've got 1,000 genders and everyone can identify as whatever race or ethnicity is that they like, and kind of everything's racist and we're all kind of on that same wavelength, then it's fine. But if you step away from that narrative and you say, actually, I'm not a victim because I'm black, or actually there are only two genders, men and women, and you say things that traditionally people in this country have believed, then you are demonic practically, and to be written off and to be sacked from your job and denied a role in public life and kind of sent away to the gulags. It's just ridiculous. And go on.
Well, I was going to say one of the so-called controversies anyway was that Ant Middleton dared to talk about, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I just want your take on that, because there's, you know, look, obviously there's a relevance here. You know, you are yourself black, of course. I mean, did this offend you in any way, shape, or form? Should this guy be losing his job, you know, because he said some stuff about Black Lives Matter? How do you personally feel about that?
I find it fascinating because all he said was that the Black Lives Matter protesters were scum. And I don't think it's the word that he used, because if he had said, you know, talked about Tory members or Conservatives as Tory scum, as the left often do, he would have been fine. But it's because he talked about the Black Lives Matter protesters. And, you know, I say protesters, really, they were rioters, weren't they? They were violent, they were graffitiing on monuments, they were throwing bikes at police horses, they were causing a lot of trouble in this country and even worse abroad. So I don't think he's far off the mark to call them scum. I don't think it's a word that I would use. I think, you know, he can be a bit more diplomatic. But like you mentioned, he is not a wokist. He is someone who's served for our country. He is a soldier. You want him to be a bit rough and ready. You don't want soldiers to be, you know, a bit wet.
I don't want him to go and, you know, start talking about the terrorist feelings. You know, I want him to go over there and just sort it out. You know, look, some people would say, just to give the other side of this, really, Calvin, some people would say that actually this is not necessarily a political point, although they've made it one, Channel 4. Maybe it's just a commercial point. You know, it's all about ratings. It's all about advertising revenue. It's all about an easy life. If I was a Channel 4 boss or a BBC boss or an ITV boss, we just don't necessarily need someone like Ant Middleton who is maybe prone to the odd quote-unquote controversial comment. Is it just that, do you think?
That's an interesting perspective, but I would say that's wrong, because I think the majority of people in this country are small c conservative in their social values and see the world in the good old-fashioned way that we always have done. I think it's a very small, vocal minority that see the world in this woke, progressive, social justice warrior way. And I think that companies like Channel 4, like the BBC, you know, mainstream media are pushing this woke narrative, but most people don't subscribe to it. Most people think, actually, why are you lecturing me on all this nonsense that I don't believe in? We want more people like Ant Middleton on our screen saying, actually, no, I don't agree with this, and you know what, these people rioting on our streets are scum. And I think most people would be at home going, yes, thank you.
Calvin, thank you very much. It's always fantastic to have your perspective, and I appreciate you making the time for us on the weekend. Although I suppose, you know, we've got nothing on now these days, have we? But I still appreciate it. 03444991000. What's your take on this? We've had Dave get in touch. Calvin Robinson is a great man who should stand for Parliament. I don't think he's the only one who's been thinking that. Text talk and your message to 87222.